What's up? It's me. What's up, Camden? Thank you for joining. What's up, Nguyen? It sucks getting old. I woke up this morning and had a cramp in my leg, then sneezed and threw my back out. I'm one part away from being paralyzed. I feel you, George. Truly. Yeah, it's me. Just wondering about the channel. So I created a channel to essentially just try to remind folks, help people remember, help humans remember that we're more than just humans. The fact that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Because as George pointed out, it gets pretty tough. It gets pretty tough being human for a number of reasons. But this go live, I decided to go live today because I've just been hearing, I guess I was on a live stream. I heard a lot about evil and the evil nature of our existence. And it just kind of triggered me. I don't know. I guess I prefer not to define things as good versus evil, but it's just a perspective and an option. I just feel like evil, that dynamic is tied to a lot of limitations. And so I'm just curious, though. I don't want to assume that before I make a video about it or something, I don't want to assume you got a booger. Shabets, stop trolling me, dude. Life to me is a game. Absolutely. Irish, what's up, brother? Very good to see you this morning. Or I guess it's early afternoon for me. I believe you as well, but how you doing, brother? What is the pendant on my necklace? So I've got a crystal here. I was born in December. I'm a Sagittarius, and this is the stone for Sagittarians. This is the ashes of my grandpa. My dad, who passed away, this was his lucky quarter. It's got heads on both sides. And then this is St. Michael. Do I find strength from crystals? I mean, I certainly find comfort in crystals. You know, like I keep this one near me on my desk. I've actually got a little waterfall here with a bunch of crystals in it. I think that there's a lot of benefit from crystals for sure. So, Irish, just so you know, there is a conflict between us. I know, brother, I know. But the thing I love about you is that you still show up. Oh, no conflict. I see. Okay. All right. Well, I that makes me happy. That makes me really happy. Irish Breakfast and we had a really nice long discussion last time I went live. And what I love about Irish is his willingness to open-mindedness, and that's something I promote on this channel. I respect everyone's beliefs, opinions, religion, whatever it is, despite my own personal beliefs. I'm genuinely curious. That's why I posed the question. I got on here. I truly want to know what people feel about evil, or good versus evil, I should say. What do I do for a living? I actually I recruit doctors. It's kind of a unique job. I didn't know it existed until I found it about 12 years ago, where I was literally finding doctors' jobs. I would work with clients like hospitals, facilities, clinics that need a doctor, and I would recruit them a doctor to go move there and live there permanently, to be a medical provider for that community. Now I'm in a little bit more of a niche recruiting role, but I'm a recruiter, a headhunter, if you will. Do I believe in God? Absolutely. The thing is, though, where my beliefs tend to conflict with others, is that I believe in like an omnipresent God. I believe in the God that I see in my head. It's beyond. It's not a man or a woman. It's all things. I believe all things are made through God, by God, in God, including you and I. And that's a big part of my belief, is why I ask about what you guys believe about evil, because I feel like evil tends to be a separation from God. I feel like we tend to separate things that we would deem as evil to be separate from God, but I struggle with that. I really struggle because I see no separation. Going back to the crystals we talked about, I see crystals, I see all the elements, I see everything in existence to be from God. My renewed faith has transformed my heart. I love to hear that, Irish, because that's what it's all about ultimately. And that's why it makes it easy for me to honor and respect everyone's path, no matter what their belief systems are, as long as it, in a sense, has this positive effect on your heart. That when we close off our heart is when we tend to really feel that separation, and do things that are out of character, if you will. Sexion, what do you mean, really? I hope that you try more looking into what you believe about these things that bring you peace. Hey, Kenya. Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. Katan, I do remember you. Thank you for stopping by. Absolutely. Does truth matter? It's me. That's a really good question. Does truth matter? Because something that I've realized recently is that information is less about truth and more about your reaction. Okay, so that ties into this matrix of illusion that I like to reference, because when we hear fear-based messages, it's not about truth necessarily. It's about a reaction. It's an attempt to get you to react out of fear, which is then an attempt to control you, to control us. And it's a very effective method of control. That's why it's used in the way that it's used. But truth, no. I think that also goes along the lines of like, I don't know where it comes from, but it's like the more you know, or the less you know, I guess the more you ultimately know, when you realize and accept that we really don't know things. So it's not about seeking truth as much as just finding that inner peace. Thanks, Sexion. Do you believe all things have a spirit? I personally do, but I also view spirit as consciousness. I think that they're one and the same. I don't think you can separate those. And I believe that the consciousness that our spiritual self has is directly from God. I believe that that's what both allows us to have this unique experience as individuals. You know, our own experience is unique to us, all of our lessons that we learn, but they're all lessons for God to ultimately know itself to the fullest. We're all reflections of God. Everything in existence is a reflection of God. But Dennis, absolutely, I believe in spirit. My channel is centered around the fact that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Can someone say the love God? Can someone say the love God and hate their neighbor? Such a person is a liar. So I have love for all through my faith. I agree with that, Irish. Now, where I think you're unique is you've had a unique path, Irish, and you've got a broader perspective, you know, that I think allows you to expand your heart and your awareness to include all. You know, a lot of times religion can limit that perspective by creating this illusion of separation of this is right and everything else is wrong. That's just something we want to Kenya, am I still in with the community? Not at the moment. And it's nothing against the community itself. You know, I've gone through a financial hardship for the last few months, really since my move. It's kind of a bad time. But I had a move in June, and that coincided with work kind of slowing down a little bit and expenses increasing. So I kind of took a back seat on the community for a little bit. Thank you, Sexian. My hat's actually from California here, although I'm born and raised in Texas. My wife's from California, so I've got a lot of affinity for California. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that, Sexian. I love God and I love your videos. Yeah, Dennis, that makes sense in what's happening in the world today. You know, my last time streaming was the day after, you know, Charlie Kirk's assassination, and it was just one of those things that it's a nexus. It's a nexus point for us, you know. I don't know what's to come of it. That's kind of the big thing here, is how do we respond to it? And it's a big part of why I'm here, though. I want to help us respond in love and not in fear. We've got to figure out how to get away from these fear-based responses and get into our heart space so that we can respond in love. And that's how we ultimately change the world for the better. It's not by fixing the system. It's not by, you know, fixing these things that seem to be broken or hindering us. We have to just start responding in ways that raises our vibration above the fray. Okay, all of these things that are fear-based, that are control-based, that keep us down, they keep us in a lower vibration. And if we fall victim to it in a sense, then we stay in that lower vibrational state. But we can go inward and focus on what we can control, which are those responses. And as long as, even if we are receiving, if a fear-based situation presents itself, as long as our response is in love, our outer will begin to reflect that eventually. It takes enough individuals responding from their heart and in love so that the collective ultimately elevates our vibration above the fray. And that's where the new systems will come into place. But we don't got to worry about what the new systems are going to be, what they're going to look like, or how to implement them, because again, we just control what we can control, which is our own responses, our own vibration. And in doing so, as a collective, we all elevate. But without the fear tactic of anything doesn't matter if truth is distorted. It's a good question. I think that the distortion of truth is almost though that's hard in itself, because what is truth? What really is truth? That's where it's hard to kind of go down that path, because if you, the Hermetic Principles talks about how there's a paradox. We live in this existence of dualism, and when we live in a dualistic society, we're going to find a paradox with just about everything. So that makes it hard to seek quote unquote truth. You find truth inside. You decide what resonates with you, and that is truth. It's resonance. Okay, when you hear a message, it's going to resonate with you, and it's either going to make you feel good, it's going to empower you, or it's going to make you feel separate. It's going to suppress you. It's going to cause division and separation. Those messages tend to, I just like to consider them as negative vibrations, not for me. No judgment. It's really important to try to approach these things from a neutral perspective, to not judge it, and just decide what resonates and what doesn't. If something doesn't resonate with you, it may resonate with someone else. It will resonate with someone else. To each their own. Just ultimately surround yourself and your headspace with thoughts and things that resonate with you. St. Patrick shared the Catholic faith with the pantheist people of Ireland. You might find his writings, Confessions of St. Patrick, interesting. I'll write that down, Irish. Hello again, sexy and Irish. I have a best friend, and her name is Iris. St. Thomas Aquinas explained evil as a privation of good, meaning evil is not a substance or a thing in itself, but rather the absence or lack of something good that should be present. Irish, I appreciate that, and I actually like that. I like that a lot. Me posing this question is to try and see if evil is associated with hell, damnation, judgment, something that is typically associated with the separation from God. And that explanation is really beautiful. Awesome, Kenya. I think that's really awesome. It's hard to do things on your own. I gotta be honest. I'm like, I get really nervous, to still yet go live and have these discussions, but it's largely from this perspective that I truly want to honor everyone's beliefs and opinions. I want to build and grow a community where people can come and share freely without facing any sort of judgment or ridicule. But as you know, these topics are very sensitive, and we deal with a lot of dynamics here. Dennis asks, do you think we will ever get to that love where we accept each other? Absolutely. Absolutely. I know that we will. It's literally just a matter of time. Okay. And it's one of those things where I feel like it's in our control as individuals. When I first started going down this journey, I felt like it was my job to, help people separate from the ego. I myself viewed the ego as something real negative. But as my journey continued, I learned that it's not. It's absolutely necessary. It's necessary for us having our human experience. And it's not about eliminating the ego, it's about integrating the ego. And the more we integrate our ego and dissolve into that, within us, we realize that the kingdom of heaven is there. We tap into that. And when you begin to tap into that in your own beautiful way, you begin to see that in everyone and in everything. And as we begin to do that, it makes it easier to love, quote unquote, love other things and each other. But here's something that's interesting is what is love? You know, that's something that it's really hard and almost impossible to truly define. So I try to keep it simple. And in doing that, I find it easier to explain what isn't love. And what isn't love is a negative judgment. Okay. So meaning, if the best thing you can do in a situation or toward a person that just doesn't resonate with you, you don't agree with their actions, you don't agree with their beliefs, as long as you remain neutral and you don't pass judgment on that individual, okay, that in its neutrality is love. When you dip below neutrality and you begin that path of judgment, we're not talking about the power and the control and everything that happens there. Just talking about individuals and can we experience love? Sometimes the best thing we can do, the most loving action we can take towards something that we really don't agree with, is to be neutral in that situation. And as long as we can do that, and then otherwise show love, which could just be simply showing compassion toward things, love has levels to it, you know, and we should feel free to operate within that, trying to make sure that we don't dip below that neutrality perspective. Jesus said, I am the truth. Absolutely. Jesus did say that. Now, what I like to do, you know, in discussing Jesus is it's important to take in the full context, or as much as you can, which goes beyond the biblical terms, the biblical explanation of Jesus, because there's many other sacred texts that document the life and the sayings and the beliefs of Jesus. And saying I am the truth is one of them, but that is distorted in itself, because not everyone receives the same complete. I don't know that anyone receives a complete message from Jesus, but not everyone has the same definition of what that truth is. Because according to my beliefs, Jesus isn't the only Son of God. You know, I hope to not offend anyone with that, because again, I believe everything is of God. I'm a son of God. You're a son of God, sons and daughters of God. But I also believe that all of the elements belong to God. You know, so how do you categorize them? It's beyond gender. We've got to try to get out of this headspace of viewing everything from a human perspective. Okay, it limits us. God is way beyond anything that we would consider human. But all humans are still reflections of God. So there's a paradox there for you, as I shared earlier. There's a lot of paradoxes in the nature of reality. So it makes it a little bit harder to accept at times. It did for me again in the beginning when I even just first heard the term paradox and realized what it is. It was just very confusing for me. It took taking in a lot more information to begin to see the paradox and the beauty in it. I think evil has to exist to appreciate the good. Well, there may be some truth in that, Dennis. I guess the big struggle I have with it is just the label of evil. Because again, I wonder what that means. If someone is quote unquote evil, what does that mean to that individual? As Irish mentioned earlier, is absence of good, which I can accept that. I mean that lines that is very much in line with what you mentioned there. And let me just say, I love all of the thoughts and explanations you guys are sharing with this. I was concerned that it would potentially go a different way much quicker, and it still could, and I'm okay with that. But you guys are very logical, and it just makes a lot of sense. I love it. Much love. Kenya is being misleading about the Catholic faith and its saints and is deliberately attacking my faith. This stream is a safe place. I don't feel safe. Let's see. So Irish, I read Kenya's post. I don't view that as an attack. As she mentioned, she does some research, and for her, it's a fact. It's within her reality, and the important thing is to try to honor that. That it's easy to say that I honor your beliefs and your opinions, but then when you feel attacked, that really puts that belief to the test. Can you find a neutral way to respond to an accusation that you don't believe is true, while still honoring Kenya's belief? These kind of things are easier said than done, but they are the solution to a lot of our problems. This is how we raise our vibration. I think everyone has opinions on what is right and wrong in the world. I appreciate people who have an open mind. Amen, Dennis. Open mind and open heart. Open heart. We want heart-mind coherence. Okay? Keep an open mind so that you can gather information, as much information as possible, and then from a neutral perspective, decide what resonates with you. Okay? And then keep that open heart as to avoid judgment. Judgment on those things that don't resonate with you. Okay? And letting them be them. Okay, Irish, let me just look this up real quick. Interesting. According to my credible resources here, Chat GPT, St. Patrick is not known to have killed anyone. So I would ask Kenya where that came from. Just out of curiosity, though, because I guess for me, I don't know. It doesn't make too much of a difference per se. I'm just reading on St. Patrick here. Yeah, looks like he did, what he felt was good and right, in honoring God, in his own unique way. Seems like he made a really big impact. So yeah, I like what I see here, but when I take in information like this personally, it all stays neutral. It's just kind of interesting to me, but nothing that affects my beliefs or opinions one way or another. No, there's no record of it, at least what was pulled up here through GPT. Um, but I mean, these are trivial conversations, to be honest with you. When discussing these kind of things, because if somebody wanted to, just quite frankly, Irish, with all due respect, it's easy to attack the Catholic, system, if you will. There's no lack of proof or evidence of things that are hard for most people to accept. But again, this is a reason why I try not to get into these type of discussions, because I start to deviate from honoring people's beliefs and opinions. What do you mean, the Buddha? Oh, but that's like me saying the Buddha killed people, but no historical record. I agree. I agree with you, and I can understand why that doesn't feel good. But going back to the point I made earlier, the important thing for you to do is to be able to honor the other opinion and belief without compromising your own, and do that from a neutral perspective. Okay? Instead of viewing it as an attack per se, view it as misguided information. And from there, you can just hope that along that individual's path, they'll eventually discover the quote unquote truth. There's a neutral way of responding to what feels like an attack. It's about respect for others and having boundaries with love. You're right, Irish, but what happens though is we can't control that through other people. We can only represent that in a sense, as long as we respect others and we set those boundaries through love. We reflect back to that other individual a better way to react and respond and live, perhaps. And maybe it's not in this moment that sinks in for them, but as long as you are consistent in representing that and reflecting that, eventually people get it. Eventually people get it. I know you're not angry. it is a safe place, and your thoughts and opinions are, as you know, appreciated. Dennis says, I believe that we can't change what happened in the past, but we can change future and respect someone's beliefs. Well, I've got an interesting thought on that. I don't believe that the past is permanent. I believe you can change the past by changing who you are today. Now this gets into a deep belief about the nature of reality. And I almost hesitate sharing that thought because you've got to add more context to it typically. But to not get into past and future, the only thing that's real is the present. And the only thing that we have 100% control over is our reactions. So I will share then, Dennis, because you asked. Man, the nature of reality. Let me explain it like this. What we are perceiving as a physical existence is actually billions of still frames that our consciousness projects through. Okay? We go through billions of these different projections in every moment. The exact number, I think, is related to what's called Planck time, Planck, which is named after the guy who discovered the smallest measurement of time and distance, because physical reality mathematically begins to break down at the Planck time and distance. And that's because Planck time is our frame rate. Okay, so think of watching a movie. When we watch a movie, we don't realize that we're watching all of these still frames with the light projecting through it, giving us our complete movie, our fluid movie that we end up watching. Physical reality operates in a very similar way, where our consciousness is being projected into an experience, into these still frames, moment by moment experiences. And because of the different parallel realities that exist, when you make a significant change to your life, let's just say for the better, the past that your new existence has is written differently than the past that the person that you were had. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. But it's empowering with my understanding, it's empowering to know that your past doesn't define you, because when you make the changes in the present moment, which is the only thing that actually exists, everything else is gone in the past and nothing in the future has yet to happen. The only thing that exists is the present moment. When you make those changes, you change your past because you just don't share that same past. You're a better person. And then you influence the future by controlling your reactions. Kind of does. I'm glad it kind of does, Dennis. I feel like I did a terrible job of explaining that. So thank you for hanging on to it and seeing a little bit of sense with all that I just shared. Irish, there's some truth into your feelings there. You know, where you said, for me, this is a character of insincerity. I mean, it goes back to just, yes, perhaps. But that's a judgment. That's a judgment. Okay? It's hard, man. It's hard to stay neutral. And just a neutral response is that person's misinformed. and that's unfortunate. But I'm sure somewhere along their path, they're going to come across the truth, if you will. They're going to come across the right information so that they no longer spread misinformation. What's up, though? You need help? Jonathan, what's up, bro? Welcome back. Genuine question. If there is only the now, then the past couldn't be changed, right? As it doesn't exist. Good question. What I would say to that is I guess this then just comes down to the context, because it helps me to stay in the present moment. Meaning I am more along the beliefs of like the past just no longer exists. It's done. It's gone. You can't do anything about changing the past. But that's because we think on a linear basis, okay, as a human, because we live linearly. So that's very common and normal to do. But the nature of reality is beyond time, meaning all things happen at the same time, okay, depending on your perspective. And from a human perspective, it doesn't. There's a linear fashion to the way existence happens, okay? So that makes it hard to buy into this belief that you can technically change the past, but you then also have to have the belief and the knowing that parallel realities exist, infinite parallel realities, meaning every decision that we've made in our consciousness that we're aware of, the other decision, that parallel reality has its own existence, okay, that plays out in its own way with its own, I guess, present moment. But our consciousness is here and now. That's what it's focused on. And because of that, this is the only thing that's real. We can explore the alternative pasts and the alternative life experiences after what we experience as death. Irish, I wonder why your message it retracted on my end. So I'm not sure what it might have stated there. I don't have mods, but the YouTube Live moderates some of the messages, so it may have retracted it itself, depending on what was said. I don't know. Do you believe in an afterlife? That's interesting, Dennis. The last video I posted is about the afterlife. So I believe that the afterlife is somewhat misleading because, to my understanding, it's just a transition. It's a transition from our human experience back into our essence, which exists on a spiritual level, in a spiritual realm, which again is beyond time. Okay? So to label it as an afterlife, again, I feel like it's a little bit misleading, because similar to like if last night you had this like crazy wild dream and it was very intense and it was very vivid, but then you woke up this morning and you go, holy shit, that was wild. That was intense. It felt real, but God, I'm glad it's not real, okay? Because you wake up into this reality. A very similar experience happens upon death, where when this life ends and we die, our consciousness expands and we wake up in a sense in the spiritual realm, looking back at this human experience going, holy shit, that felt real. That was intense. Everything that we feel is valid. But we wake up upon death realizing that it was the dream. That's where you hear that. When people talk about this being a dream, it's from that perspective. It's totally real and valid, everything that we experience while going through this human experience. But what we are at our essence is so much more than human. This is literally a training ground. This is an experience that we choose to have from a spiritual perspective in order to grow as a spiritual being and to ascend as a spiritual being. And what are we all? Every one of us are ascending back to God. It's what we're all in search of, because we're all aspects and reflections of God. Question. Do you feel all judgment is inherently wrong? You make judgments every day, what is best for you, your family as a dad. Judgment is not inherently wrong. Judgment can also be about discernment. Absolutely. I try to use the word negative judgment when I talk about these things because of exactly what you just pointed out. We are constantly judging things. Absolutely, it's not inherently wrong. Okay? Just like we're not born sinners just because we're born. Okay? It's an aspect of reality. It's an aspect of being human. Okay? So judgment, absolutely not. We have to have judgment. It's part of us. It's whenever that judgment turns into negative. When we move from that position of neutrality into a position where we're negatively judging a person or a place or a situation. Oh, absolutely, Jonathan. I was hoping you'd return. Glad to see you, man. Is that what happened? Dennis, my dreams have been crazy too. And for years, many years, I didn't think I dreamt. You know, for me, it would be like I close my eyes, I go to sleep, and then I just wake up the next morning and here I am. There was no vivid dreams taking place, at least none that I remember. But those are actually starting to happen here recently, and it's kind of wild. They almost immediately dissolve upon waking up, but here recently I've been waking up going, what the hell was that? You know, what was that all about? Like feeling these emotions upon waking up. It's kind of wild. Iris says, if you judge nothing, then everything is subjective, relative, and truth doesn't matter. I think that statement, everything is subjective, relative, and truth doesn't matter, it in itself is truth regardless of judgment. I think that's a part of the nature of our reality as a human. Everything is subjective and relative, and truth doesn't matter. That's what I was sharing earlier about resonance. It's all about what resonates with you. And then honoring what doesn't resonate with someone else, meaning your beliefs that doesn't resonate with the other person's beliefs, honoring their beliefs, what resonates with them. Because again, under the umbrella that all things are a reflection of God, in order for God to know its fullest self, all things are necessary. So all beliefs, all opinions, all experiences are necessary for the all to know itself as the all. I believe that God says in Genesis 1, let us make man in our image as we are more than physical beings. What would you say causes one to move into the negative? Conditioning. Conditioning is what causes us to be in fear. Okay? Because if you really spend time thinking about it, it's fear is the root of all things negative. Truly. And we incarnate into this existence, into this society that controls us through fear. So that being said, though, that's why it's so important to just bring conscious awareness to your reactions. We can't remove the negative things, the fear-based news, even situations that directly impact us and affect us. The only thing we have 100% control over is our response. And we have to take ownership over that. And by controlling our response from at least a neutral perspective, if not positive, meaning from the heart, as long as we respond from the heart, we're going to be either neutral or positive. As long as we control that, man, everything else will eventually reflect that back to us. Okay, meaning fear-based things won't have a place in a world full of people who live from their heart space, because it would be so freaking awkward for them. You know, if their fear-based reactions or actions, I should say, don't cause a fear-based response, they eventually stop giving you that fear-based action, because they're no longer controlling you. Because fear is not native to us. It's not natural for us. We come from a place of pure love, where fear doesn't truly exist, only love and wisdom. No, I get it, Irish. I knew where you were coming from, for sure. I don't know if I referenced something that may have seemed about talking about St. Patrick. I know you moved past that, bro. Yeah, Jonathan, pride's a big thing, man. Pride's tough. Pride is one of those things where I'm still contemplating, of like, what positive, how does pride serve me in a positive way versus a negative way? And that's the contemplation, but because it seems to be overwhelmingly negative when you have pride. But it's like, I'm proud of my kids, so there's like a positive meaning behind pride as well. That's a tough one. Jealousy. Yeah. Dennis, jealousy is fear-based. It truly is. It's fear-based at the root of it. It's a sense of lack. There's a lot in that. And it's hard. It's hard not to see someone in a good situation or whatever and not get quote unquote jealous. But I'm telling you that the more in your heart space you get, the easier it is to see that and be happy for them. And the more we can be happy for another person, the more likely we are to then attract that same sort of abundance, if you will, into our own lives. But when we react from a position of jealousy, that actually in itself, that reaction in itself tends to push the possibility of abundance away. Watch a 1-year-old take a toy from another. Who taught it to do that? Experience. It's almost like it's natural that we do that. No, absolutely. So, yeah. When I bring up these topics, especially talking about fear-based things and reactions and being negative, I say it from a perspective of knowing that it's very normal and natural for us to live like this. Again, because of the conditioning that we experience. We come here to learn lessons, and everyone comes here to learn their own unique lessons. And sometimes we have certain lessons that we want to learn as a baby, such as taking a toy away from someone else and then having to learn that that's not how you operate as a human. That's not the way we treat other people. And it's better to learn those lessons as a child versus seeing an adult going through that exact same lesson. They just haven't learned it yet. It's just where in their path are they going to learn that lesson? We're all unique. Based on your experience on Christianity, what is your understanding of sin? My awareness, Irish, had to expand beyond my Christian faith and belief before I could begin to understand sin, because I personally don't believe in sin. Okay. Sin comes from a Latin word that means to miss the mark. And in that context, I can have a belief in sin, so to speak. But in the biblical sense, typically, meaning a sin is damnation, Jesus died for our sins. I'm sorry. No. I don't believe in that. But you would have to define what your belief of sin is for me to have a better response to it, because I personally choose, it's just a choice. I honor everyone's, but I choose not to believe in sin. Pride is being on a cliff. Humility is losing your footing and falling. That's really awesome, Dennis. Let's see. Do you think that humans are the only creatures that can live below our potential? We never see a beaver making a bridge, only a dam. Silkworms never make polyester, only silk. Interesting. Well, I don't think we live below our potential. I hate to say that. It may sound contradictory, but I also have the belief that we can't make mistakes. I think because I see all things as a reflection of God. Okay? And what we would deem as a mistake is necessary for God. In order for God to know itself, someone's got to go through that mistake, quote unquote mistake. Okay? Just because someone else is having that experience, maybe it's a mistake that you would have never wanted to experience. So be thankful that maybe someone else is going down that path. That's another way of responding in a neutral way. Better you than me. Dang, good luck. It's just being neutral on something like that. But yeah, I don't think we live below our potential, so to speak. I wouldn't ever claim that. I think that we incarnate. I think that the primary reason for us having this incarnational experience is to discover ourselves from a new perspective. As we discover ourselves from a new perspective, God, the all, understands itself truly as the all, because all perspectives are necessary. People don't go to hell because of sin. Irish, let me ask you this, or any of you guys, because again, similarly, naturally, I don't believe in sin. I don't believe in hell. Although I do believe that if an individual believes in hell and believes they lived a life worthy of hell, that upon death, they're going to manifest a place that resembles however they view hell as, until the moment they realize that they're the ones manifesting that. They're the ones in control. And then you're out of hell. There's no eternal damnation unless you do it for yourself. Yeah, please do, Jonathan. So Dennis asks, what is the punishment of sin? I guess I would ask that same question as someone who just sin doesn't resonate with me. As a young kid, going to my Baptist, my Southern Baptist, I live in the Bible Belt. That's talked about a lot. Sin is talked about a lot. And it never resonated with me. It just didn't make a lot of sense that we're born sinful and that Jesus had to come and die for our sins just so we could sin and then eventually be forgiven so that we end up in heaven. Like, I feel like that's limiting. Well, it just doesn't resonate with me naturally. But you mentioned hell and sin, so I replied. No, for sure. I was just curious, genuinely, if you have a belief in hell, and if so, just, I guess, not if so, just explain what the belief in hell would be, A kidnapped kid, positive or neutral experience by your belief. So, things like that. Good question, Jonathan. Some things are almost impossible to rationalize from a human perspective. Such as, let me just give this example because it's obviously pretty relevant. Charlie Kirk's assassination. I have never myself been political. I don't even know Charlie Kirk's opinions. But it broke my heart when he was assassinated because his open forum and his open debates, I think, was a reflection of his open heart, regardless of what his beliefs are, whatever. I believe the guy had an open heart. He was open-minded. He was willing to listen to people respectfully, okay? And when human beings behave like that toward other human beings, it breaks my heart. Naturally, I see us all as reflections of God. And when you do that, I see you as a reflection of me. I see me as a reflection of you. So whenever I see stuff like that happen, it breaks my heart because I see it against yourself. Okay? And when I come up across situations like that, man, I got to be honest, I tend to just switch off that human perspective and I view it from a spiritual perspective. And from the spiritual perspective, again, going back to this situation with Charlie, I feel like he and the shooter had an agreement. And I know I hope that that's not disrespectful toward other people's beliefs or feelings around this. But again, I have to do this for my own sanity, if you will. There's certain things in life where I can't view it too long from a human perspective because it just hurts. It's really hard. So I step into that spiritual perspective and just, once you go, okay, they had an agreement there, it's damn. Now, something like that's going to have like an impact, a major impact on the collective. And in the beginning of my stream here, I mentioned that it was like a nexus point for us, meaning depending on how we react as a collective to what happened there is going to have a huge impact on our future. Again, we can't control the circumstances that come into our lives. We can't control the future. We can only control our reactions. And as if enough people within the collective respond from a heart-based position, then our future is going to reflect that. Meaning we're going to unite more than we divide from a situation like that. So from that same sense, I guess that agreement wasn't just between Charlie and the shooter. It was really a collective agreement from a spiritual perspective. I have a unique view on these things. I believe that we set up our lives from the spiritual realm. And then once we get everything set up with all of our soul family, which we're all a part of, we kind of hit the go button, and now we get to go act it out in a dream state, in physical reality, knowing that when this physical reality ends, we meet our death, so to speak, we wake up in the spiritual realm, as I mentioned earlier, going, holy shit, that felt real. That was intense. And that belief gives me comfort. And again, in situations like with Charlie, it's like he didn't suffer. You know, he made a quick transition, and he's in a place of love. So back to the kidnapped kid. Say it's yours. So what happens, Jonathan, in a situation like that is, I think initially it's a bit of shock and it's a bit of survival, but true survival instincts. Okay? So it's hard to judge a reaction in a situation like that. Okay? This is a circumstance. The reaction comes once the shock has gone away. Okay, once things have played out, in a sense, from there, you try and view the situation in its totality from a neutral perspective. And then, if you can, you have a positive response to it. And let me give you an example. I thought it was amazing and beautiful. Did you guys see that Charlie's wife forgave the shooter? This is an example of that, okay? She dealt with the most traumatic thing that hopefully she ever has to deal with in her human experience. And I don't know what that looked like and what that felt like. I just know that it was hard. It was hard as hell. And she got through it. And in what seems like no time at all, she viewed it from no doubt a neutral perspective, and she came out and forgave him, which is a positive response. She modeled exactly what we all should do. And many of us fail to do it, even in the same situation we're talking about. It should be easier to look at what she did and how she reacted to it and go, holy shit, you know, that's amazing. I could probably do a little bit more of that in my life. Irish says, people tend to overthink on hell and sin. I agree, which can lead to despondency. I have to look up that word. If you focus on God, on his love and natural law, you are on the correct path. I agree. I love your statement there, Irish, but I've got a question for you. Is God, in your opinion, and there's no wrong answer here, I'm just genuinely curious, is it a man? Because you put his. That doesn't mean that it's a man, okay? But I'm curious, because it could just be a paternal, energetic feeling you have toward God. But on saying on his love and natural law, putting a gender on God is a little bit of a trigger for me, so I apologize. I immediately pick up on that, and I'm just genuinely curious if your perspective of God is that he's a man. I don't know what that means, though. I don't know enough about what the because I guess in saying I'm Catholic that means yes, because that's just my assumption. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me add to my vocabulary: despondent, in low spirits from loss or hope of courage. Yes, good frickin' word. Okay, God is the Trinity. I'm looking up triune. Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. I guess I struggle a little bit with that, Irish, because I see God as more than a Trinity, but that probably just means I don't fully understand what the meaning behind the Son and Holy Spirit. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. I don't know. I feel like it's leaving out the feminine qualities of God in a sense, because again, viewing God as omnipresent in a sense, God doesn't lack. God is both made up of the father and the mother, the son and the daughter, the elements, the animals, the plants, the everything to exist. But wouldn't stating a correct path imply an incorrect? I guess you're right. So you're right, but I think that this is just kind of nitpicking the words here a little bit, because I understood where Irish was coming from there. Maybe, maybe there may be judgment there, because you're right. I mean, in my beliefs, there's no incorrect path. There's no wrong decisions. I had to explain this earlier talking to my mom, because my mom's going through a situation where she's having to consider getting a pacemaker put in. She's really worried about, like, do I do it? Do I not? And I'm trying to explain that there's no matter what decision you make is the right decision. There's no wrong decision here. Now, ultimately, you can make a decision on something, and it's okay if down the road you decide that no longer serves you, that you no longer feel that way. And that's where I think we need to empower ourselves to do that. Because again, the present is the only thing that's real. So we project out things into the future, and that tends to lead to worry and anxiety and stuff like that. But as long as we know that, hey, you know what, today this is what feels right for me, and I'm going to move forward with that, feeling completely content with that decision, knowing that tomorrow you may make another decision, a different decision, because the decision you made yesterday no longer serves you. And this starts to lead into our belief systems and how we need to all go through this evaluation of our current belief systems, because we're hanging on to outdated beliefs that we picked up way back here in our journey that limit us. Maybe they served us up until this point in our journey, but now it's a limiting belief. And we've got to empower ourselves to go, you know what? That no longer serves me. This is what I now believe in, and allow that to start to define who you are in the now present moment. Natural law, St. Thomas Aquinas. The Celts had no issue. Based on what you said, mother, father, daughter, animals, and plants, you need to read Letters by St. Francis. Oh, do you, Dennis? That's good to know. My wife's grandfather has one also, and he's 90, I think 96 years old, doing extremely well. But I tend to have a neutral. My mom wanted me to tell her what to do, and I wouldn't do it. I'm just not going to. It's not my decision. It's like that. This goes in line with me honoring people's beliefs and opinions in their own path, your own journey. It's not for me to make that decision. The Little Flowers of St. Francis. You're not old, Dennis. You're just experienced, my man. That's it. So I feel like we can manipulate time. And we do that by not allowing it to govern us. Okay? By knowing that our existence is timeless, beginning there, and then having a knowing that we're supposed to live much longer and extended lives than what the current, data proves. We've got to stop this not most people won't like this, but we have to stop celebrating our birthdays in a sense. Because as we acknowledge the fact that we get 1 year older every year, that in itself ages us. The key to slowing down the aging process is to stay in the present moment. Keep your full consciousness and awareness in the present moment, and it'll do wonders for your health. Thank you, Dennis. It's been awesome having you here. And I believe I'll go live. I'm going to start trying to go live during my lunch breaks. I was going live a little bit earlier, and I was feeling pretty guilty. I'm home working, and I've got one of my children here with me while I work and do this. So yes, I believe I'm going to go live tomorrow, as long as something doesn't come up. But I'd love for you to pop in and say what's up when you guys see me. Going live again around this time. I've loved the conversation and just really appreciate y'all's thoughts and opinions here. I'm going to ask Jonathan about that. Unfortunately, I don't live exactly near my mom, so although I would be the one taking her to these doctor's appointments, I'm not. So I'm not as informed as I should be here, but I'm going to ask, and then I'll get you up to date on it. But my personal, feelings toward that is, I believe in our natural abilities to heal, and I can't imagine putting in a pacemaker, but I also told my mom that that's my perspective in my current state of mind and my current health. I said, give me 20 years and I might tell you a completely different opinion. But that goes back to what I was saying earlier. We've got to allow ourselves to do that. What serves me today may not serve me tomorrow, much less 20 years from now. And that's okay. We're allowed to make those decisions and change our mind. All right, guys. Hey, I need to get back to work now. It's Been such a pleasure having you guys here. Iris, so glad you showed back up. Jonathan, so glad you showed back up. Dennis, if you ain't left yet, man, I hope to see you again on the next Go Live. It's truly been an honor and a pleasure chatting with you guys. Absolutely, man. Guys, have a great day, and let's try to connect again tomorrow or just one day this week. I will be live. I'm going to try to go tomorrow. Peace out, brother.